Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at how to draft, cut and sew this corset dress with a front zipper and side pleats. If this is what you're interested in learning, do keep on watching and let's do it together. So I have my basic lines already ruled out. You can see they're already labeled. So the first line is my shoulder line, my bust point line, my underbust, half length, hip line, and then the full length of the gown I'm making. So the full length is supposed to be 40 inches, but my pattern paper is 36 inches. So when I'm cutting on my fabric, I will add the remaining inches to it. So on my shoulder line, I'll divide my shoulder into two, which is 8 inches, and then I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder length. Then I'll go ahead to draft out my arm side, which is 8 inches. If you've been watching our videos before, you should know how to get this arm side length. And then I'll connect the points together to draw out my arm side curve. So I'll be using 3 by 3 for my neckline because that's the standard. And then I'll go ahead to draw out my shoulder slope and then my neckline curve. So I'll go ahead to draw the curve for my arm side. I'll divide what I have on the arm side length into two, which is 4 inches. Then I'll come in by half an inch. Then on that chest line, which is my arm side line, I'll take quarter of my bust measurement. So then I'll be connecting the 3 points together to form my arm curve, as you can see. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is go up from my bust point by 3.5 inches, which is going to be my off shoulder. So then I'll go ahead to rule out a straight line. And that line is going to be my new chest line, which is where my corset will be starting from. So the next thing I'm going to do is divide my nipple to nipple measurement, which is my bust span, into two. So my nipple to nipple is 7.5 divided by 2 give me 3.75. So I'll mark that 3.75 starting from my chest line down to the hem of this pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do on the chest line, on the center front, which is the middle parts going to my side, I will mark 0.75 as you can see. And then on the side parts, I will be taking 1 inch, 0.75 on the center front, and then the side part will be 1 inch. And then I'll go over to my underbust to do my underbust tightening, which I marked 1 inch on both sides of the line. So then I'll go ahead to connect the 2 points together. As you can see, I'll be using my curve driller to connect the points. Let me take you back to a time when love was as precious as diamonds, where if you search you would find it. So on the half length line, I'll go ahead to mark half inch on both sides of the line because we don't need too much of tightening over there. So after marking the half inch point, I'll go ahead to connect my points together. I'll connect the underbust tightening to the dart I took on the half length, and then from there I will just slant it to my hip line. And then just like that, I will just take the line straight down to the M line of this pattern paper. So guys, the next thing I'll be doing is imputing my body measurements. So I'll first of all be imputing my bust measurements, which I've already gone ahead to mark. My bust divided by 4 is 10 inches, and then I had 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. And then I'll go over to my half length line and take quarter of my waist measurements, which is 8 inches. And then the dart I took on the underbust with 2 inches, I'll be replacing that dart on the half length. You should know that I do not take my underbust measurements. So after doing that, I now went ahead to add 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. And next, I'll be taking quarter of my hip measurements, which is 10.75. And then I will go ahead to mark 1.5-inch sewing allowance as well. So after doing that, I'll go ahead to connect all the lines together. I'll first of all be connecting my actual body measurements, then connecting my sewing allowance separately. So guys, I'll go ahead to connect from my hip line straight to my full length. I will just place my ruler to connect it straight down. You can give it a little bit of flare, whichever way you prefer it, as there will be a pleat on that side part you get. So now I'll go ahead to draft out my cupped corset. So I'll first of all determine how deep I want my neckline to be, and I'll just go ahead to mark 1.5-inch below the chest line. So you can go ahead to measure your client or measure yourself how deep you want yours to be, depending on your preference. Then on that line that I marked, I will take 1.5-inch inwards, as you can see, and then I will just go ahead to rule out that line. Then from there, I will be connecting it to the chest line, and then I'll also connect it to the underbust, as you can see. So guys, you can still go ahead to mark half inch on the middle part depending on how wide you want your cup to be. So I'm just trying to follow the picture because the middle part was a bit wide, so that's why I used 0.75. So now measure what I have on that center front cup. I have 2.75, almost 3 inches. Then I'll go ahead to mark that 3 inches on the side part and add extra 1 inch. So that extra 1 inch is because the side part is usually fuller. Your bust is usually fuller on the side part. So next, I will go ahead to curve. I'll place my curved ruler from my under bust to that point I marked and take it straight to the arm cycle line, as you can see. So guys, I'll go ahead to connect the upper part of the dart to the arm cycle. I'll give it a bit of curve meeting to the arm cycle. So I have my corset already drafted. The next thing I'm going to do is take my bust dart of 2 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark 2 inches from my main body measurement. I'll mark 2 inches starting from my bust point, and then I will just connect it to my bust span, which is my nipple point, as you can see. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is determine where that curved pleat is going to be starting from. Now if you notice from the picture, the pleat wasn't starting from directly the half length, it came down a bit from the half length. So I'll go ahead to come down by 4 inches from my half length line, and then I'll just mark 4 inches and rule out a straight line there. So after getting that line, I'll go ahead to curve my pleats. Now I tried using my pattern master, but it's not going to give me the curve I want, so I'll just be using my hand to sketch out the pleats, sketch out the curve, sorry. I'll use my hand to sketch out the curve, and then I'll make it visible using my marker. So guys, following the illustration, the corset dress has a 3 panel. So what I'm going to do is come out by 2 inches from my original dart line on the half length area, and then I'll just go ahead to rule out a straight line. From that 2 inches point, I'll just place my ruler and rule a straight line going to the corset cup area. And then when I'm done, I'll label the 3 panels 1, 2, and 3 for recognition. I'll also label the cup panels into 3 as well. So now before I go ahead to cut, I'll first of all blend the dart line on the cup area. So the next thing I'm going to do before cutting, I will go ahead to draft out the third panel for this cup corset. If you notice from the picture, it's the cup of the corset is into 3 panels. So to draw out that third panel, on the center front, I marked 1.5 inch. Then on the two darts, I also marked 1.5 inch. Then on the side part, I went ahead to mark 2 inches. So I'll go ahead to connect using my curved ruler. So at this point, I'm done with the drafting of the front pattern. So I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern and also go ahead to close down the bust dart, as you can see. So just watch closely how I cut it. Notice I've already added sewing allowance already. So when I'm cutting my bust area, I'll be giving a little bit of space on the side parts because of the bust dart. Because after closing the bust dart, it might affect my body measurements. You get.
But I don't wanna play no games, baby. I'll treat you different, show you commitment. Be my baby. Let me love you crazy. Let me hold you down like gravity to the ground. Oh, be my baby. I ain't gonna be shady. I ain't messing around. Let's fall in love. I
So
won't
guys,
let
after
us fade
cutting, I'll be
away,
adding some
even when
arrows.
we old
As you
and
can see,
gray.
that are
Know
going
that
to
I'll be.
note where and where we'll be going together when I'm sewing. So the next thing I'm going to do is just make all those lines visible so you know which line I'll be cutting out and which line will be remaining. So before sharing that line on the cup area, I'll first of all close down my darts. So I'll fold the darts allowance and then close it down and use my paper tape to secure it.
Let's fall in love. I won't let us fade away, even when we old and gray. Know that I'll be here to stay and give you that red, 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 red slow love, red slow love. Give you that red, 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 red,
So
red,
now if you
red,
notice that
red,
after
red,
closing down the
red,
bust
red,
that
red,
the lines I drew
red
on the
slow
cup
love.
area were now a bit different. So I'll go ahead to blend it out again. As you can see, I'll blend the curved part and then the dot line for the cup area. So I know it might be looking confusing, so I'll just go ahead to label the panels 1, 2, and 3 for the cup area. So now for that top part, I'll go ahead to cut it and then make the top part to be 1. So I'll go ahead to cut out the cup first and then cut out the panels for the cup area. So you guys just watch closely and see how I'm doing it. So after cutting the top part out of it, I'll go ahead to hold it down together to make it 1. So guys, this is the whole of my front pattern. This is my cup area that's into 3, and then the panels on the body. And then for the cuffed part, which is the pleats area, I went ahead to draw graded lines and I will slash and spread them on my fabric to make my pleats. So guys, the next thing I'll be doing will be drafting out the back pattern. So guys, for the back pattern, I've already gone ahead to rule out the lines that I need. So I have my shoulder line, my arm side, half length, hip line, and then the full length line. So then to take the measurements, the half length line is 16 inches because of the bust that's at the front. So the half length on the front is 18 inches. So the back half length will now be 16 inches. Then from that half length, I will mark my hip line measurements. And then I also go ahead to take my full length. So the full length for the back will be shorter by 2 inches than the front because of the bust darts. And that's the reason why I went up by 2 inches from my actual pattern. So I'll be trimming out that 2 inches so that I will not make a mistake when placing it on my fabric. And note that I said that on my front pattern, when placing on my fabric, I'll be adding extra 3 to 4 inches to complete my full length line. So I'll also be doing the same thing for the back. You get. So now I'll go ahead to impute my body measurements. I will take quarter of my bust measurement on the chest line, which is 10 inches, and then add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. And then on my half length, I will take quarter of my waist measurement with 1 inch for my darts and then extra 1.5 inch sewing allowance. And I'll also take quarter of my hip measurement on the hip line with 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Then I'll go ahead to connect all of my lines together. So for the darts for the back, I'll go ahead to divide my nipple to nipple measurement into two, which is 3.75, and then I'll just connect that straight from the chest line to the full length line. So then I'll go ahead to take 0.5 inch on both sides of the dart line to form my dart, and then I'll connect to my chest line in a triangle form, and then I'll also do the same thing to my hip line. So the 1 inch I took for the dart, I've already replaced it on the side already before adding my sewing allowance. So now remember at the front line, at the front pattern, I went down by 4 inches from my half length, which is where I'm going to determine the curve. So I'll do the same thing for the back. I measured 4 inches, and then I'll go ahead to sketch out my curve. Just like I did for the front, I'll also be using my hand to draw the curve. Or you can just place the front pattern on it since it's the same line. You can go ahead to place the front curve that you've drawn out before, place it on the back to sketch out the curve for the back pattern. So now go ahead to cut out the pattern lines. You can go ahead to label your back, but this back is not really technical. So guys, I believe we've come to the end of this tutorial. If you find this video helpful, please do well to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. So the sewing tutorial of this dress will be coming up very shortly, and please do well to turn on your notification bell to be notified when this video come up.